Hello, 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 ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for hitting that play button for another episode of the Heady Coleman Podcast, where I sit down with amazing people to have go-win conversations. Go-win is being consistent and doing those right things that allow for you to achieve the wins that you have defined for your life so that you can live out your greatest story. Some of the reason I have these conversations is because I want to help you discover what are those right things. Sometimes those right things are one-offs, like, hey, I need to do this thing one time in order to move forward. Or sometimes it's like doing it every day or once a week. Oftentimes I go to this thought of exercise. Like, I want to lose 10 pounds. One of the right things I do is what? Go to the gym once a day, spend 30 minutes on the treadmill, whatever that may look like. But I want to help you discover whatever those right things are so you can achieve that win. And so I sit down with these fabulous people because they're experts. They have a story. They've already been there, and we want to be able to dive in. And today I have my very good friend, my brother, James Long, who is what's your new title? I saw Instagram. Your new title is a lifestyle.
Well, I'm a host for American Dream, American Dream TV. And so it talks about lifestyle and real estate.
And real estate. And so today, James and I are going to talk about a little bit of real estate. James, thank you for being here with me.
Yeah, absolutely. Great to be here.
Just tell everyone a little bit about yourself for those who may not know you.
So I'm a lifelong resident of Guthrie, America. Born here, raised here, went to school here. Now raising my own kids here. I have a local real estate brokerage called Jameson Realty Group. It's something that I found was my passion, was real estate. Just happened to find that midway throughout my career, I guess, and different things that I've done. But I really enjoy helping people meet their goals from a housing perspective, and so that's what I do full time.
Got you. Since you've been in, how long have you been doing real estate now?
Since 2010.
Really? I feel like I was there whenever you decided to make this change in your life. And now we're talking, 12 years you've been doing it? What are some things that you've seen in the real estate game change since you've been a part of it?
So, I mean, especially just coming post-COVID, where it's been such a seller's market. That's probably the best seller's market, I've ever seen, probably will ever see. It's went from the housing crash of 2008. I got in right after that, picking up those foreclosures and things of that nature. And then it's, went to cheap money where everybody was buying and being able to get loans for low interest rates. And now to turn around and see that it's flipping the other way. And things aren't bad now from an interest rate perspective, but they surely aren't as low as what they were.
Yeah. Now before this, you were in the oil and gas.
Yes.
And the oil and gas has a tendency to kind of do the same thing, right?
So oil and gas is very cyclical. And I think probably every industry goes through its cycles.
Yeah.
But it seemed like oil and gas for me, when it was up, and you just had no time. So you just worked, and when it was down, it was down. It's like, you better saved while it was up to cover when you're down.
Yeah.
And so and it seemed like those cycles were just speeding up faster and faster. And I was just ready for something to be a little bit more consistent. And so although real estate has its cycles as well, there's things that you can do to diversify yourself within real estate to have a little bit more steady stream of income.
Gotcha. Now, real estate, I want to say that I saw you TikTok, Instagram, whatever, Reels or whatever, and you were talking to people who were like, hey, I want to do real estate. And you mentioned like people talking about doing it part-time. And you were just like, this is not a game to do part-time because it's just such a challenging career to build up, right?
I mean, it really isn't a part-time. I mean, you have to think about if you have no experience in real estate and you're trying to build a business, like any business, you're only going to get out of it what you put into it. And so if you're only putting part-time, you're not going to get very good results. Yeah. And so you also have to make sure that you have the availability to your clients. I mean, you have to be understanding of the fact that some clients are going to be nights and weekends clients, and maybe that's when you're available. But some people may only be available, daytime. And definitely your lending institutions, your title companies, all of the work that goes on behind the scenes it's 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. And if you're not there to take care of things that come up or bumps in the road, if you're only, answering your phone after 5 o'clock, it's going to take a lot. Someone else is going to be doing your work for you.
Yeah.
And so you're really not doing yourself or your clients a full service.
Gotcha. No, that's good. For that person who may be listening right now, they'd be like, I'm not so much in the housing market, but I want to get into real estate. What would be your advice to that person outside of do it full, like figure out a way to be able to be available 9 to 5 or full time for the most part? What else would you tell them?
Well, I think it also depends on how they want to get involved in real estate. I mean, when people say I want to get in real estate, my first question is, what do you mean? Like, are you wanting to be a realtor? Are you wanting to buy and sell real estate? Are you want to become an investor? Do you want to buy and hold stuff? Do you want to flip stuff? What do you want to acquire rentals? Are you looking, what are you looking to do? So there's many different avenues that you can make money in real estate. And there's some of those things, if you wanted to be an investor, obviously you're primarily providing money and probably depending on how you're investing, if you're buying stuff that's ready to be leased or you're buying stuff that needs to be rehabbed. So there's all kinds of different things that go into that might allow you to do it more on a part-time basis.
Yeah.
But if you're actually looking to be a realtor and buy and sell for people, help people buy and sell, you really need to have, that full-time availability.
Gotcha.
Especially getting started, because you're going to find yourself, it's not a 40-hour-a-week job, right? You're going to find yourself putting in more hours than just a 40-hour work week.
Yeah. Also, just one other thing that wasn't on my original question list. Thinking about Guthrie, America, man, it seems like it's been crazy in the sense of people trying to find a place to live or find a place to rent. What does that mean for the future of Guthrie, America? Is things about to just change for us, or what is it? And also, I feel like the prices aren't, and I could be wrong, the prices aren't what they used to be. Like Guthrie's just as competitive market as Oklahoma City, Edmond now, right?
Yeah. So, historically, a lot of times people thought that they could come to Guthrie because it was cheaper. And in some cases that was the case, if you're buying home. I will tell you from a long time, rent necessarily hasn't been any cheaper in Guthrie than it has been in other places.
Mm-hmm.
It's been just as competitive. And I will say, in Oklahoma, over the last year, we've seen rents increase 25%. I mean, up to 25%.
Wow.
I mean, there's been a huge
That's
increase.
just Oklahoma in general.
Oklahoma in general. In fact, there was a paper that was written that Oklahoma has seen the highest rate increases in rents across the United States. And that could be one of two things. A, it's just the availability is down, the amount of people that are moving in. And B, it could have been just we were that far behind that we've needed a little push anyway. On those rental rates.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing just in my church world, and then just also just living in the community, how many people are like, I came from California. I was at the bank today. This lady, like, I moved from Colorado Springs. I'm like, why you moved to Oklahoma? He's like, cheaper or different lifestyle or whatever the case may be. And that may be true from Colorado to Oklahoma or California to Oklahoma. But if you've been in the area, you like, I feel like things are going up, which you have spoken to.
Yes. I mean, and honestly, I mean, this year, the past couple of years, most of the homes that we've sold to have been all people moving, primarily people moving from out of state. A lot of people moving from the California area.
Yeah.
I've sold quite a few homes to people moving from the state of Illinois.
Okay.
And I think, why are you leaving? Me leaving Illinois because we're a little bit warmer down here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm driven by climate. I like warm.
So I know that.
So if you tell me you're moving south, you're just trying to warm up a little bit.
Because you're trying to go further south, right?
Yes. It's not warm enough for me here. But we are. And, Guthrie is seeing a huge influx I think for a lot of reasons. One, just Oklahoma City is just branching out. As much as they're having infill, they're also still branching out because all of the communities, around Oklahoma City are growing.
Yeah.
You're still seeing growth in the Yukon, the Mustang, the Piedmont, the Deer Creek, Guthrie. I mean, it's inevitable. I mean, if you go out west, Jones, Choctaw, Harrah, all those communities are growing too. So the greater OKC area is just continuing to expand and continuing to fill in as well.
Yeah.
With people that are moving in. And, Oklahoma as a whole is really becoming more and more of less of a flyover state, right? I mean, look at what's going on in our downtown Oklahoma City area.
Yeah.
There's just some phenomenal things going on. In the 1990s, there were 2 hotels downtown, and now there's like, I don't know how many.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no, that's crazy. I remember coming into the 2000s, I started hosting an event in downtown Oklahoma City. And the guy who owned Java Days. It
Hmm.
was right there on 10th Street, and his name was Earl. And Earl was always talking about, even at that time, how it was beginning to change.
Yes.
Because he's like, I came in when there was no building. Like he was like buying empty buildings up like crazy. And then around that time he started selling them, and now just the growth from then in 2001, 2002, I got the opportunity to see. But it's been amazing, and I kind of Guthrie doesn't have that structure, right, to be able to do those kind of things. But I feel like there's been change, just as much change in Oklahoma City in Guthrie as it was in Oklahoma City, but not
Yeah.
quite looks the same. But there's been change.
Well, and there's been change, and I think we'll continue to see change. I mean, there's been within the last year and a half, there's been 3 new neighborhoods approved to be able to come in and develop. And so as we start to see more and more rooftops come in, we'll start to see more and more retail establishments come in. I
Yeah.
mean, I I know that just from living here, we would like to have this and that, a new grocery store, lots of different things we would like to have. But unfortunately, you got to have the population to support that.
That's
And
right.
we're starting to get that population. That population within Guthrie proper is expanding.
Okay, now this is, to me, I guess it's a big secret, but everybody may know. What's coming on Waterloo and I-35? What is that?
Man, that's a huge development. It's multi-use, multi-purpose.
Okay.
So there's gonna be office, there's gonna be retail, there's gonna be apartments, and so there's
Oh wow.
a huge production going on there. Once that really starts to go up and take hold, I just can't imagine the traffic
It's gonna
that's
be.
going to be there, because I don't think they're not going to have that Waterloo Exchange done yet. I don't think.
Oh, is it
So
is it coming?
yeah, so
Okay.
they're making a new exchange on Waterloo and I-35, but I have a feeling that unfortunately our pace and way we do roads sometimes, the development's going to
That's gonna be a mess.
be up before the roads are done. But it's great to see Logan County continue to grow and expand.
That's right, because that's not city limits, is
It
it?
is not in city limits. No, it is not.
So what does that mean for us though? Like, okay, that's exciting, but we don't. We How do we benefit from that? Being people in the city limits of Guthrie, do we see any benefit from that, or just something cool to go to that's a little bit closer?
So, I mean, depending upon what all they're going to offer there, but it could provide jobs that are closer to people that maybe want to live in town, or might want to live in Guthrie and not have to
Yeah.
commute as far as to work. So, depending upon what all options are there for people, I think Guthrie will see some benefit from that. We'll see some additional people.
Gotcha. That's good. That's good. Is the on queue? Is that not city?
No, it's not.
Really?
Mm-mm.
Wow.
No.
Okay. Man, I don't know why I thought that was, but not at all.
No, we stop at Seward Road. So
Seward Road. Okay, so we gotta get some stuff down a little bit further. Um, let's talk about going into 2023, or what are some things that people should be thinking about concerning the housing market. You and I talked about 5 things. Kind of go down that list real quick, and then we'll come back around to them.
Sure. So I think as people are thinking about buying a home, there's several different things that they need to really be considering. One is just their current financial state. Can they truly afford it, right? Because when you buy a home, you have a lot of expenses up front. You've got closing costs, and you're going to want to buy new furniture, and there's lots of things that you're going to need coming into a new home. So do you have the financial ability to buy right now? And then secondly, it's still financial, but it's budget. So you can go and get yourself approved for a loan, but maybe you're approved for 400,000, but you don't like what that $400,000 house payment looks like. Maybe that's really out of your budget, and so then you have to look. Okay, but I can do 300. I could do that. So then making sure that you're staying within something that's comfortable for you, because most people, when they're buying a home, yes, they're looking for bedroom count, bathroom count. They have needs within that home. Do they need a home office? Things of that nature. Do they want an open floor plan? Do they need a garage? Do they need a yard? There's all types of things that people look for in a home, but they also need to make sure that they can budget for that home. So sometimes there's going to be some give and take, right? There's going to be some sacrifices. Not everybody can afford their dream home, and even sometimes I think people that can. Once you build your dream house and you get finished, people are like, man, I wish I would have done this.
Yeah.
And so then I think it comes down to location. Where are you wanting to live, from city perspective or geographical location, and then it comes down to what type of lifestyle do you want to live? Are you looking for something that has some walkability to it? Are you looking for something that you can not have to get in a car to be able to have to go to work? Or maybe you can ride your bike or whatever the case may be. It may come down to, do you have kids that are involved in sports? I mean, if you've got to be taking your kids to practice every day, you may want to live out in the country, but man, you may find yourself racking the miles on your car and spending more time busing kids to and fro
Yeah.
than what you would like. So maybe it makes sense to live in town.
Yeah.
What type of things are important to you in that perspective? And so that's when I say lifestyle, it's really more about not lifestyles of the rich and famous. It's about what type of lifestyle are you wanting to live? Are you wanting to live a more urban lifestyle? Are you wanting to live a more rural lifestyle? Do you want to have animals? There's people that come to town and think they want to have 6 dogs. Well, you can't have 6 dogs in town, right? There's a limit. 3, I think, is the maximum that you can have within city.
I didn't even know that. I never
So-
thought about having more than 1 dog, but
Well, I prefer
You
not
gotta
to have
look-
any dogs.
yeah, that's right. There's a limit on how many. So I'm gonna keep an eye on my neighbors. Some of them got a few dogs.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So really, it comes down to what type of lifestyle do you want to live? What's important to you? Do you want to be able to walk to the local grocery store or restaurant or pub or whatever the case may be? Or are you okay, driving? Or maybe you want a neighborhood type setting, or maybe you don't want to see your neighbor. So it comes down to, what's important to you? What type of lifestyle are you really wanting to live and thrive in? And then I would say, as you're looking for that home, it's going to be longevity, right? Like, how long do you plan to live there? The 2021, 2022s aren't always going to happen, where if you bought a house in 2020, all of a sudden you can sell it in 2022 and make a profit. Typically speaking, you need to plan on being in a home about 5 years or so to recoup what you've spent in it, your
Gotcha.
closing costs, what you've already spent in interest, what you've already invested in the home, to be able to get away from it and then not be house poor or negative.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean?
Gotcha. Man, those are all good. Let's just kind of walk back through those. Now, you mentioned finances.
Yeah.
What right now, somebody's listening, maybe they haven't even bought a home before, maybe this is their second home. Kind of give them a little bit more on what it would look like for their finances. Like, what are some things they need to be thinking about?
Well, they need to be thinking about how much money they need to have down. So you're buying a home and you've got to put money down, right? So, you could do maybe they're doing an FHA loan and they're putting 3% down, or maybe they're doing conventional, they're putting 5% down, or maybe they don't want to have to pay for private mortgage insurance. So then you got to put 20% down, right? So, and then what price point are they buying? So what does that look like? Do they have that much money in their savings? And then you don't want to completely drain your savings for your down payment, because you still have closing costs that you have to pay. There's some, you've got your title insurance, you've got your home inspections. There's a lot of little small things that you've got to pay for to get to the closing table. And then you have to be prepared. I mean, now you're a new homeowner. Murphy's Law, you buy something, gets a new house, something breaks, right? You get in a new home, and you bought it in the winter, and I'll be darned, you get through to the first summer, you go to turn on the air conditioner and it doesn't want to work. You know what I mean? So then you have to budget for maybe, heating and air repair, or a new hot water tank, or whatever the cases may be. You just want to make sure that you have a cushion. You don't ever want to buy something, particularly buy a home, and then become house poor, where you can't afford to go do the other things that you enjoy doing. Because no one wants to buy a house and have to eat at home every single night.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People still want to go out and enjoy a good meal somewhere else, or some entertainment. And if all your money goes into a house payment, you're not going to like that house much.
Yeah.
You're going to feel, shackled to it.
That's good. Finance. I don't know if this would go into finances or not, but I know that I've recently been hearing people talk about they started buying houses before the interest rate and stuff started going up. Now, because of that, their mortgage payment originally was lower than what it's going to be once. I don't know how that works, but when you start building a home, the interest rates can go up if you hadn't already fixed that.
So if you have an adjustable mortgage, then yes, it can definitely go up. And that's something definitely to, when you do an adjustable rate mortgage, understand that the possibility of it going up is very likely. So budget for that. It's really all about interest rates. Interest rates is what makes the homes affordable in some instances.
Yeah.
I mean, where people could look for, we talked about, I said if somebody wanted to buy, they have qualified for 400,000, but they didn't like that payment, they could only buy a $300,000 house. Same thing with the interest rates. I mean, the interest rates what depicts your payment. Your first half of your loan, of the life cycle of the loan is all going towards interest, right? And so you want to make sure that if your interest rates are now 7%, your buying power is less than when interest rates were at 3%.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But that was crazy. I never thought about that. And I may not still quite understand when somebody starts building a home.
Well, if they're building a home, you've got a construction loan that you've started.
You start out with the construction loan,
and then you have to convert that to a mortgage once the home is complete.
So that's what
And so when they started, maybe interest rates were obviously way less. Interest rates were 2.5%, 3%. Now they're finished, and interest rates are 7%, and they built at the top of their budget at 3%, and now they're like, "Holy crap! I got to take a second job."
Yeah, No, that's essentially what they were saying. Is like, or I don't know what you do, sell it, or you couldn't do that.
I mean, depending upon how much you already have into it. I mean, selling could be an option, depending upon if you have enough equity in it from building it.
But second job is probably the more likely thing.
I mean, there's probably going to be some people out there trying to hustle some money to be able to afford
the house that they originally thought was going to be at a certain interest rate. And I guess during that time, so the next thing we're going to talk about is budget. But is that a question? But nobody really knows. Like nobody would have known this 10 months ago, I guess, or a year ago. Like the interest rates were going to end up jumping that high or whatever. Are there questions you should ask yourself?
I mean, nobody has a crystal ball on what the future's going to bring, but inevitably, what goes up must come down, and what goes down is probably going to come back up, right? And so we have just got used to free money, essentially. I mean, being able to borrow money for cheap rates. Mm-hmm. And when you're borrowing money so cheaply, no one's making any money. You know what I mean? When you think you're only going to pay 2.5% for a 30-year mortgage. I mean, no one's making any money off of that, right? I mean, not real money. And so you have to think that, okay, this isn't going to last forever.
Yeah.
I mean, the Feds, brought interest rates way down to try to get us out of one crisis, and in turn, it's just created the other, right? Yeah. So, I mean, it's created the bouncing ball effect.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, I had never thought about that until those people were talking to me about this stuff. I was like, oh, man. Talk about budget. Like, what are some thoughts or things we consider when you mention budget?
So, again, no one wants to be house poor, and so you don't want all your money every month going into your mortgage. Mm-hmm. We also manage a little over 250 rental properties. And so when we're qualifying people, and I'm going to use this as an example, just simply because this would easily cross over to if you're buying a home. We don't want people's monthly rent to be any more than 33% of their gross income.
Gotcha.
If it's more than 33% of their gross income, then they're more than likely going to struggle in some form or fashion because they typically still have car payments. They still have to eat. They still have insurance. They still have all the additional costs that it takes to live. And so you just don't want their housing budget to overwhelm their their full monthly living budget, right? And so, I mean, some mortgages will let you go 45-50% of your monthly, but no one wants to. I mean, that's running awfully tight. What if something happens? What if you lose your job, or what if you get injured? Things happen, and so you don't want to live house poor. So I typically tell people, trying to keep your payment down to a comfortable level where you're not just making a house payment.
Yeah, that's good. Now, the other thing that you mentioned here was location. And you and I, before we sat down today, talked about location, and you got me to thinking about a lot of things that I just normally don't think about. But like one of the things you mentioned was like you live in the country and you got to travel back and forth to take your kids to school. Like you're talking about being in your car all day because of that ride. So those would be one of the things that you think about when doing location.
So I know growing up, I lived in the country, and I wasn't a sports kid. The only thing I did was the band. But my parents had a rule like, if you're not doing everything, we can't afford to keep driving back and forth. to get you. And so there was lots of times it was like, okay, you can do that, but you got to find a ride. Somebody else, I can't carpool you.
Yeah.
Dad has to work, mom has to work, whatever. Like, it's just not possible. And so my wife and I, we have 2 kids that are both pretty active. I mean, Carson plays football. Addison, basketball, volleyball, track. I mean, it don't matter. She's got something going every season. She's busy. But I'm just sitting here thinking, she's got basketball practice every day after school, and so if we had to literally come pick her, it would be a challenge to pick up her brother, pick up her, get them to where they needed to be, get to games, pick them up from games. And so living right in town works for us because it's just a quick, 3-minute ride to the school to get them. You can still get dinner going, right? Where if you got to drive 15, 20 minutes to get them, you don't want to leave dinner going, right? Because you might burn your house down.
No, and those are some of the things that you definitely want to be thinking about whenever you're thinking about the location. And you also mentioned, which is something I wouldn't have been thinking about, but like how many animals, or if you want chickens or different things like that, and you think you want to live in town, but then also you want a little mini farm, you just can't have those things.
Yeah, you can't be having your goats and live in town, right? Because goats are going to climb that fence and be in your neighbor's yard. But so there's lots of things that you have to consider when it comes to, what type of lifestyle do you want to live? And I'll tell you that one of the things that's really becoming important to a lot of people is walkability. They want to be able to know that they can go do something and not have to get in their car to go do it. Whether that just be go to the park, be able to exercise, people look for safe places to be able to run. You see people all the time in different places that, when you're traveling or, maybe running on the road or on the shoulder because there's no sidewalk, and it can be dangerous. And so people are like, I want to live somewhere where I know I can go out for a run and not, worry about heavy traffic, or I want to know that I can, walk to the post office, or I can walk to the local pub or bike, or not have to get in a car to be able to do something. I think there's a growing trend that way. And I think that's why we've seen such a growth in the downtown Oklahoma City area. And you're starting to see that, more public transit come into place. You're starting to see these, bicycles and scooters.
The Lime.
And there's several different companies that do that. But it's because you can pick it up, ride it to where you want to go, and then just leave it, not to worry about it, right? You don't have to worry about having to store a bike or whatever. People are wanting the flexibility to be able to go without a car.
And I think doing things like this can help people begin to think about those things, because again, like normally some of these things you just don't be thinking about. Like, oh man, I never thought about it. If I could just walk to the grocery store, or I can walk to the park, or be able to just go outside my door and run and feel safe in doing that. Like, I just don't think sometimes people think about that. Because we so naturally just, I'm going to move to a neighborhood, and then you got to drive 15, 20 minutes to go to the grocery store and stuff like that, which I'm a big fan of walkability. Like, I want to be able to walk places and get to the grocery store and all that stuff. So,
well, I've had people ask me, showing a house in Oklahoma City, and they'll say, well, how far is the library? You know what? The library is the last thing I think about. Like, what do you go to the library for? You got the internet, but for real. So, but it's serious. So there's just different things that people look for in order to fit their life, their lifestyle, their goals, and what they want to do. And live comfortably.
For sure.
And for each person, that's something different.
Kind of location, lifestyle, kind of going hand in hand. But you just talked about lifestyles, not. Because when I grew up, we thought about the lifestyles of Rich and Famous.
Kevin Leach.
His voice.
Absolutely.
I can hear him right now.
I can hear it too.
Really, lifestyle is not just about the rich and famous.
No, it's not. It's really about you and how you want to live. One of the things that COVID taught a lot of people is that they needed a private office. They needed a home office available to them, because now all of a sudden the kids are at home. Both mom and dad are at home, and you're trying to Zoom call, and next thing you know, somebody's running in the background in the underwear, and you're like, you got to be able to close the door. I can't tell you how many of those Zoom calls I was on. That, like, what is going on in the background?
What's going on in that
now all of a sudden you're distracted by the one that the green light is lighting up because they didn't mute.
No, that's so true.
And so it really does come down to, what are the things that you need in your life? to live comfortably, to have your needs met. And so, whether that be, enough rooms, if that's, the open concept living because you want to be minimalist, some people absolutely don't like a lot of things, they don't like clutter. Uh, and just depends, on what their needs are, how they want to live.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things that kind of can probably help you think that through by just Googling lifestyle, things to consider. Because again, I think sometimes people they're just not thinking about these things, and they need to hear somebody talk about it or mention it or whatever the case may be. And so, and then the other thing you talked about was longevity.
So typically, when you're buying a home, again, what's happened after COVID is not typical, where people see crazy increasing going on in their home values at that rate of speed, and mainly that came just simply because of shortness of inventory. I mean, there wasn't a lot of inventory on the market, and so things were going fast and for more than what people were asking for. But people typically move within their lifetime. Most people aren't going to buy a house and live there for their entire life. Most people move at least 3 times within their lifetime. And so, but you want to make sure that if you're buying a house right now, where are you at in your career? Where are you at in your life? It probably doesn't make sense to buy a house if you're getting married in a year and you're going to live somewhere else, right? Like, just extend your lease, right? Yeah. Rent something. So you just want to make sure that if you were to buy something, that you're going to be there. 5 years is a good standard to go by, to ensure that once 5 years is up and you decide to resell, that you've got some equity built into it, that you can get what you have in it out, maybe make a little bit of money.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. So, James, where can people find you?
I live in Guthrie, Oklahoma.
I'm right off Winston.
Yeah. I just look around. I'm on the tables at Katie's Diner. City manager always takes a picture while he's there and sends it to me, or puts it on Facebook, having breakfast with James. So, you can find me. I can give my telephone number. My cell phone's plastered all over the place. You can find me on Jameson.realestate is my website. You can find my phone number, my email address there. But I have an office here in Guthrie and in Oklahoma City.
Good. Thank you, James, man. I deeply appreciate it. Do you want to plug the show?
Oh, so I do have something new and exciting coming up. We filmed our very first episode of American Dream, Selling OKC. I filmed it this last month, and it will air in January. I still haven't seen the finished product myself, so I'm curious what does it look like? I have no idea. They say TV adds 10 pounds. Did I gain it? I'm not sure.
I think you'll be fine on that, even if you gain 10. Now, I saw you in Guthrie. So is it OKC Metro? Is that kind of how that is?
It is. And so, Guthrie belongs to the OKC MLS, Oakmar, Oklahoma City Metropolitan Association of Real Estate is the full name. But the MLS OK is Oklahoma City and surrounding areas. Yeah. And so one of the things that I thought about, for one, Guthrie's my hometown, so I wanted to give it an opportunity to shine and be seen. And I'm just partial to Guthrie. But honestly speaking, when you think about where Guthrie is and who lives in Guthrie, a lot of people live in Guthrie and commute to Oklahoma City for work. And if you think about proximity of just spending a day here or coming here to see what we have to offer, we're 30 minutes up I-35 from downtown OKC. It's not that far. It's really not. It's when you think about how long people will spend in a car in LA to go 5 miles.
For sure.
You could travel 35 miles here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? On that same time frame. So it's not that far. And I just think that Guthrie has a lot to offer from a standpoint of just culture, things to do. Living here, a lot of people say, man, there's nothing to do. But that doesn't matter where you're at. People always think their own hometown ain't got nothing to do.
For sure.
But when you think about all the things that we do offer, we have quite a bit. It's really cool.
No, it is. Well, James, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to come sit down with me and just talk a little bit about real estate. I know there's a lot of people that's always in the market for a new home or looking to rent or buy. And so it's just good to be able to educate them. And actually, I think I'm pretty sure one of my best episodes is with you and me, and we're talking about real estate.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it is. It's like I can't remember how many hundred downloads, but it's probably our number one of my. Maybe it's in the top 5 for sure. And so I know that people really look for this information and stuff. So
Well, it's the biggest investment most people make in
Yeah.
their life, and
Yeah.
so it's really important that when you are considering buying a home, that you just don't jump in,
Yeah.
right? Because you're putting a lot of your hard-earned money towards this, and so
and that's a lot to it. It's a lot to it. Once you even get, I think once you buy one, you be like, oh my goodness, I don't think I was ready for. It's
Now I
like
gotta-
having a kid.
now I got to mow the lawn.
I've got to mow the lawn.
Uh-huh.
I got to take care of the plumbing. I got to,
Yeah.
and not everybody's like you. You kind of semi-handy. And so you get in there and do some stuff yourself. I'm like, we're just going to live with that hole.
See, I told you I grew up country, so we didn't hire nobody. We figured it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. See, that's one thing I love about you because you be figuring some stuff out. I'm like, who's going to do that? He's like, I'm going to do it. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Shoot, I was going to Lowe's yesterday evening to buy a hot water heater for a rental that it went out. I get that thing changed last night, you know?
You would have did it.
So, yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. Thanks again, James. Hey, go check out James and the work that he's doing. Make sure you check out his show. We will have the links to his social and website, things of that nature, in the show notes. And so, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for hitting that play button for another episode of the Heady Coleman Podcast. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, go win.